What's going on, Newborn Nation? Newbornkilik here, welcoming you to Game Boy Advance SP Blue Edition Creepypasta. Now you can tell this is going to be an amazing story already because it has Creepypasta in the name. And that's classy. That is the classy kind of stuff I am willing to be involved with. Anyway, let's get right into this story. It all started 53 years ago, back when I was a fully grown little boy. 3 dots. Already abusing that little 3 dot thing, huh? You're already gonna use one of those? It's the first sentence paragraph, you're already gonna use one? Okay. One day while I was jumping through the street, I happened upon a large vehicle, which clobbered me violently into a nearby window. I guess that's what happens when you just happen upon a large vehicle. So, good work. After getting my bearings, I looked up to see a young boy with a Game Boy Advance SP Blue Edition in his tiny little hands. It's weird that you mentioned that they were tiny little hands. Oh, I hope I don't have to cut this due to pedophilia. Anywho, it's what I had always dreamed of owning a Game Boy Advance SP Blue Edition, but my family could barely even afford gold. What? But he looked at me with those big, vibrating eyes. His 2 lower teeth quivered in confusion. "Mama," he said softly. What? This was my chance. I ran at him, screaming and stomping my feet, scrambling his brain in sheer confusion. I shoved him as hard as I could and grabbed the Game Boy Advance SP Blue Edition. You're a dick, okay? You're just gonna assault this small child and steal his Game Boy? What? Anyway, Arthur ran out the door. I leaped back down the street towards my home. I pulled open the door by its big, smelly handle. Strange choice of adjectives, but let's move forward. And I let myself in quietly. I snuck past my many parents. And shut myself into my room. I'll never be getting out as soon as I shut myself right in here. How many parents do you have? Finally, a Game Boy Advance SP to call my own. Yes, because this is an RPG and there are definitely no consequences for stealing. They won't catch you after that. But anyway, I will have to keep it hidden from my family. I shouldn't ever allow them to know. You know, his 2,000 parents he apparently had to sneak by to get into his room. I took the Game Boy SP in my small, beautiful hands. That's weird. We're gonna keep going, but I don't like this is going down a dark road, okay? Anyway, Arthur proceeded to slide the switch to on mode. I will never forget that wonderful sound it made the first time I turned it on. Fuck the other times it made the exact same sound, but that first time was truly wonderful. The thrill of crime. And that wonderful Nintendo logo splashed my screen in sheer delight. I blew out my candle that I apparently was setting up for a special night with my Game Boy Advance SP. Anyway, I blew out my candle and I pulled my curtain shut tight. Okay, going in a weird direction. I wanted absolutely nothing to get in the way of my first Game Boy Advance SP Blue Edition experience. You know, like those candles, they're always coming to life and burning down houses and just really mucking up your first Game Boy Advance experience. Suddenly, a small man appeared on my screen. Shortly after, the word Mario started flashing behind him. I assumed this man was the man known as Mario, because I live under a rock and am super edgy, have never heard of Mario. Oh, okay, and then he goes on, I had seen adverts showing him on the television. The title of the screen slowly lowered itself from the top of the screen, extra spooky. Super Mario and the Legend of the Stolen Game Boy Advance SP Blue Edition? My heart sank as I noticed a dead pixel in the lower left region of the screen. Beggars can't be choosers, I thought to myself. However, and I pressed the start button with my finger. You know, instead of your wiener, which is basically what this whole story's been hinting about. Maybe it seems absurd to some of you, but I'm getting some very creepy pedo-style vibes from this story. Maybe that's just me, but anyway, let's move forward. A vast landscape with clouds, bushes, and bricks appeared before my very eye. Surprised it wasn't your pretty little eye, you creep. And at the beginning of a sentence, you should know how I feel about that by now. And there he was, the familiar Mario. Man, I had grown to enjoy. You know, in the 5 or 10 seconds that I've actually had this game active, I've really grown to enjoy him. He seemed like a nice guy, mustache and all. I envy that. I pushed left on the left button. Mario himself dashed to the left. Wow, interesting. Dust between his silly brown shoes filled the air. Amazed by his speed, I quickly pushed right to test his turning abilities. Ooh, I was not disappointed, as Mario changed direction in a matter of seconds. Oh my god, what is this leading up to? But Author learned the other button functions as Author played. B allowed Mario to dash at high speeds, similar to my own. Apparently Sonic's the one that got a hold of this cartridge. Sonic is kind of the dick that might actually push someone over and steal from a kid. He just always gave me that cool guy like, I'm better than you vibe, you know what I mean? A allowed him to leap so high in the sky that I screamed in fear that, perhaps, maybe he wouldn't come back down. Yet he always did, of course. Shut up, Author. Which engaged me in the game world even further. I quickly grasped the concepts of jumping large gaps, avoiding enemies, and climbing a big flagpole at the end of each level. Here we go again with more sexual tension. Can we stop? It's so unnecessary. I got to the 4th level without much problems. Nice grammar, but we'll let it slide. I looked into a nearby mirror and smiled at myself with one eyebrow raised. Ooh. Trying to seduce yourself now. Author said loudly, "Does this game think I'm not good? I can handle anything it throws my way." Aha! Ha! Ah! Aha! I'm sorry. Suddenly, the screen turned black. And I don't mean just black. I mean so black, the screen looked like a big, deep hole. So it turned black. Okay. That's what the color black is. I said out loud, "Is this a hole I see before me?" And it echoed just like a hole. Wow. Okay. So is that just how you greet every hole, is like, "Hello, are you a hole?" "Yes, I'm a hole. I'm a hole. I'm a hole." Anyway, I wiped a large chunk of sweat from my flopping brow. That's such an uncomfortable sentence. That was weird, I thought, in a big bubble next to my head. Okay. This story's taken a very interesting turn. The level loaded, but this time it took a lot longer. Mario stood in place, so I pushed right. He began running. I noticed the graphics were getting all jumbly. Also, the music was becoming less like the Mario theme. Da da da, da 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 da. And more garbled like brada. Okay, well, you know, when you physically assaulted that small boy, you probably broke the speaker. I was nearing the first gap of the stage to jump over. As I drew closer, I readied my sweating pink thumb over the A button. The gap was here. I pushed the button, but Mario didn't jump. He just screamed. Ho! I pushed left as far as I could, and he grounded to a halt right at the edge of the gap. I pushed A frantically and repeated to try and make him jump, but he just screamed and screamed. Ha-ho! The camera zoomed in on my face as I pummeled that A button, trying to make Mario fill that air above his body, but all that filled the air were my friend Mario's screams of fear. I said, "No more!" I pulled the cartridge from my Game Boy Advance SP and threw it out the window. It landed in some mud outside and I laughed. As I closed my window, I turned around and I saw that the cartridge was back in my Game Boy. Mud oozed from its cartridge slot. Because we all know that cartridge has been a dirty boy. I gasped and said to myself, "No, it can't be." The Game Boy turned itself back on. Mario's face appeared with hyper-realistic count 1, okay? Everyone get out your checklists. We have hyper-realistic. But Mario's face appeared with hyper-realistic skin pores and bloody chapped lips. Okay, blood, that's hyper-realistic, and blood, they're close enough. I'm gonna lump them together, so we have 3. We have hyper-realistic blood and hyper-realistic blood because they're so close together. But he spoke softly. "You stole me from my human. Now I, Mario of Nintendo of America Incorporated, curse you forever." I screamed aloud, louder than an eagle of the night. There must be some way to undo this curse. Maybe the answer is stop stealing from children. Just an option. You could do that. I decided, completely arbitrarily and by really no means of actual evidence, that the only way to rid myself of this curse was to beat the game. I ran up to the first gap of the level. I pushed A, and Mario just screamed again, "Ho!" I feel like at this point, he's not really saying Mario sounds like, "Wah, wah, ho!" He's just calling the author out on how he feels about him. That could be. I fell into the hole, and Mario lost a life. This is when I noticed my skin began to rot and turn slightly green. "What on earth is happening, Mario?" I asked Mario. Which is a weird way to word that sentence because Mario is in the right there twice. It's not exactly the words you want to see there twice. But anyway, every life you lose, I will make you rot. Ha ha ha. Okay. Mario's a psychopath. I asked, how can I beat the game with only screams? I cannot jump back gaps by screaming. Fuck you, Mario said quietly. What? So basically what happened is that he sassed Mario up, and Mario's just like, nuh-uh, middle finger right there. Anyway, Arthur screamed, oh! I decided not to beat the game in fear of me rotting. I decided that I was going to do the right thing. I ran out of my room, pushing my feeble mother out of the way in the hallway. I ran down the street to the boy's house. Thunder bellowed, and rain pitter-pattered on my crying face. Finally, I reached the house. I leaped up to the boy's window and let myself in. The room was dark. Is this where things get really weird? Do I want to keep reading? Or can I not upload this? Boy, I cried out, boy, are you there? Also, the fact that he knows where this boy lives but not his name is weird and very stalker. But I mean, not even like a good stalker. Like a good stalker would at least know their name. Anyway, I turned on the light switch, and as the room lit up, I saw many people dressed in black. They all cried softly. Who the flip are you people? I asked with tears running down my chinny chin chin. We are this boy's family, a woman replied. I was his mother. She pointed into the center of the room, where a small, white coffin was suspended over a hole. My heart sank. Is your boy inside that box? I asked with an eyebrow raised and a finger on my chin. The possible thinking pose? Yes, a crazed person broke into our home, ravaged our son, and stole his childhood by killing him. Whoa. Okay. Everything went slow. I dropped to my knees. I held the Game Boy tightly in my clenched fist. Could this be my fault? I asked myself politely. What? Politely? Why would you ask yourself that politely? It's totally... Wait. This is a rough day for this kid, okay? He got his Game Boy stolen, and murdered. So that happened. Just been a rough day for little old Jimmy, huh? Or sorry, boy. His mother walked over to me with a big, fat tear in her eye. She told me, it really means a lot that a stranger would let himself into our home to pay respects to a boy he didn't know. I'm sure you two would have gotten along great. This whole situation is really weird. So he went into a house, and there's a hole dug through the house where they're about to bury this kid that got pushed over, his Game Boy stolen, and murdered in the same day. This is actually going a lot of interesting places. Much better than I thought it was going to be. But let's continue. It's not over yet. But she then pointed to the priest and said, please lower our child into the earth now, through our floor, which isn't weird at all. The priest did just that. He pulled on a lever with a shiny red ball on it. What? Anyway, the coffin started going down. We also had this strange coffin lowering contraption just installed into our home. It's fine. I shoved the mother from and I sprinted toward the coffin. Is that just what you do to mothers in general in this story, is just shove them? You just like shoving people. You shove everyone that's been in this story so far. Except for your 1,000 parents that apparently you have to have a stealth minigame to get by every day. I jumped on that coffin and the ropes snapped. I began falling into the earth with the child inside. I heard the screams from his family echoing above. I pried open the coffin as we fell, and I shoved the Game Boy into his tiny, cold mouth. Free me of this cursed child! I screamed at the top of my 3 dots head. Okay. I noticed that we weren't hitting the bottom, and that the darkness in this hole reminded me of the dark I saw in the Game Boy. Could this be what I saw before? From the darkness, a floating black and white head of Mario appeared. He said to me, in this hole, you shall fall with the dead body of a child. Ha ha! And then he Gaussian blurred away. This story is very self-aware, and I really appreciate that. This is what I get for stealing, I guess. I said as I shrugged, casually. Whatever, it happens sometimes, you know. You steal and then you fall into a bottomless pit with a corpse. Oops. It's a standard happening. It could have happened to anybody. Suddenly, Mario appeared again. He said, wow, it sounds like you learned your lesson. You now be free. Bye. He clicked his mustache. Apparently he has a mouse handy with him as well. But Arthur was sent back to his room. I looked over on my bed, and the Game Boy Advance SP Blue Edition was gone. My mother opened the door, and she said, my son, my beautiful, shoving everyone around the place son, I make you eggs on toast. And she threw it on the bed, and left with a smile on her face. I realized maybe stealing not okay. Me realized maybe caveman as well. Also, I looked into the sky and said, thank you, Mario inside Game Boy. Obviously, the best plot twist here is that Mario was truly the hero of the story. Everything would be alright, and the child remained permanently dead. Okay, maybe everything's not alright. His mother could always play his Game Boy Advance SP Blue Edition to remember him by. Thanks to me. So, a lot actually happened in this story, and I didn't hate it. This was a really pretty funny story. It's very obvious that the person that wrote this knows what is going on and is not taking anything seriously, which is perfect for a creepypasta. Like, there are a lot of creepypastas that obviously aren't taking themselves seriously, but they're also not really stories. But this is kind of an actual story. Like, it actually tells a story from beginning to end. There's a moral, there's a high point, there are low points, there's a nice arc, and it's not half bad. I actually almost just completely overlooked this, but there were so many decent points during the story that actually made me laugh because I was just not expecting them. So anyway, this is actually a pretty good story. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. It helps me out an awful lot. I'd like to give a quick shout out to my patrons, George Kasner III, Mark Comer, and Emai. Thank you so much for supporting me on Patreon. I greatly appreciate it. And if you would also like to support me on Patreon, I would be eternally grateful. And a link to that will be on screen and in the description. Anyway, I'm Newbornkilik, and I will see you in the next one. I'm out.